Hello everyone, my name is Ahmedina and I'm an English teacher at г.Караганда. And today I'd like to share my experience on correcting students' mistakes in speech in realities of distance education. And there are three main subtopics I'd like to cover today. First, when mistakes should be corrected, ways of correcting learners' mistakes in speech, and correction techniques. And first of all, I would like to discuss the first question. When should we correct our students? What kind of mistakes we should discuss with students? And in order to answer this question, we should first of all think about the main purpose of the speaking activities that we are conducting in our lesson. If the purpose and the goal of activity is fluency, we should not interrupt our students, and it's better to apply delayed correction technique, which is done at the end of the lesson or activity. On the other hand, if you are focusing on accuracy, it's better to use on-the-spot correction, which will let students understand what kind of mistake they are making and focus on accuracy in speech. There are three main ways of correcting students. First, it's self-correction, when students correct themselves. Another one is peer correction, is when you ask other students to correct mistakes. And the third one is teacher correction, when students are not able to find their mistakes and there is a need of extra clarification from teacher. Of course, ideally, teachers should guide students and help them to correct themselves. This way is more beneficial for learners. It affects their self-esteem, their confidence, and of course their understanding of specific language or vocabulary. And today I would like to tell you about main correction techniques that I use in my lessons. I decided to choose two types of common mistakes that students make in speech. And the first correction technique is called echoing, when we simply repeat what student has said, and this shows to our students, it kind of gives our students a sign that they have to change something. Like if a student says, I go to the cinema yesterday, you can simply repeat and say, I go to the cinema yesterday, and student will understand that he needs to correct something. Statement and question. If a student says, I make my homework every day, you can, when student makes a statement, you can ask a question by saying, do you make your homework? This again shows that your student has to correct and change something. Non-verbal correction is my favorite, when you don't have to say anything. You simply use your gestures or mimics to show that there's something wrong in what your students are saying. For example, if I correct the first mistake, I go to the cinema yesterday, I would simply show like this pointed past, and it will mean that student has to change the tense. Repeating is when you ask student to repeat the sentence or statement with a mistake. For example, can you say that again, please? Can you repeat the last sentence, please? So it means it makes students think again on what they said. And hinting is quite common way, but a bit more time consuming comparing with others. It is when you try to guide your students towards self-correction. For example, I go to the cinema yesterday. Are you talking about present or past? So this kind of guides your students to correct themselves. As for delayed correction, there are main steps that we should follow. While students are talking, we should take notes and write down the mistakes they make. We should copy and paste these notes to the chat or notes, whatever software we are using. I used the chat section in Microsoft Teams, and the whole class can see these notes, and students can be given task to work either individually or in pairs and correct their mistakes, write their answers in the chat. If there is no time for this, you can send this as home assignment, and students can do it at home on their own. And at the end of delayed correction, when students have found their mistakes, you should discuss and give feedback on the type of mistake they are making, and this is really helpful in avoiding these mistakes in the future. This is an example of the chat being used for for students for delayed correction when students see their mistake at the end of the activity, and then they have to write their corrections in the chat. So there are some don'ts that we should keep in mind when it comes to correcting students' mistakes in speech. We shouldn't focus and spend too much time on it in class, especially in distance learning when there is very limited time. We shouldn't use on-the-spot correction with very shy learners who have a language barrier, as it may have negative effect on their speech and fluency. We shouldn't focus on who made a mistake, trying to hide this information. So students should only focus on the mistake itself, not on who made it. And of course, the most important one is don't forget to praise your students if they find their own mistakes. This has very good impact and influence on their confidence, and they remember this language better when it is connected with positive emotions. And as a reflection, I would like you to answer the following questions that we have covered in today's mini workshop. Thank you for attention.